What's going on, everyone? It's the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with another fantasy football video. Today we are going to be discussing waiver wire pickups for week 3, so you guys can get everyone that you need to absolutely dominate your league mates, dominate your friends. But before we get into it, please, if you could, go down, give this video a like, give this video a comment. I will be answering any fantasy football related questions, whether it is waiver wire, trades, or buy low, sell high candidates, anything. I am more than happy to answer any questions, and subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. With that out of the way, I will not waste any more of your time. Let's get into it with our first waiver wire acquisition. Now, normally I do not start these videos off with a QB, but a QB is an absolute must here, and his name is Jimmy Garoppolo. If you play in 2 quarterbacks leagues, Jimmy Garoppolo is absolutely essential to pick up because he's done it before. Now with Trey Lance out for the full season, most likely, rest in peace Trey Lance, by the way, but I hope for a speedy recovery. But at the same time, Jimmy G has done it before, putting up a quarterback 14 finish in 2019, and a quarterback 17 finish in 2021, meaning that if you're in a 2 quarterback league and he plays for the full season, you are getting a mid quarterback 2 for fantasy football for the rest of the season. If you have a high priority waiver pickup, I would absolutely go after him. In a 1 quarterback league, this is hardly a drop in the bucket, but in 2 quarterback leagues, he is absolutely essential. Even if you have 2 great QBs, it still is always nice to have a backup. And if you have Trey Lance, obviously, go out there and try and get Jimmy G. Spend your fab money. If you have a high waiver wire priority, go after him. But again, this is for 2 quarterback leagues only. In 1 quarterback leagues, I would go another direction, which I'm going to get in right now. Okay, so getting into waiver wire pickups for 1 quarterback leagues, I do see that Garrett Wilson, first of all, has a 61% roster rate. I would go pick him up if he somehow is not rostered already. But he does go over my 50% roster rate rule for waiver wire acquisitions here. So we are going to be talking about somebody else, somebody that I think has the potential to actually be a very, very good wide receiver, a nice bench role on your team, and his name is Noah Brown. Now, well, yes, I do understand Michael Gallup should be coming back. Noah Brown has legitimately been better for fantasy to start this season then Ceedee Lamb. I hate to say it, it stinks. I was drafting Ceedee Lamb, I'm sure a lot of people were, but he has had more receptions, he's had more yards, and he's had more touchdowns. It is a little bit scary. The only thing he's getting beaten is targets here, and that is by not a huge margin. So I think Noah Brown is a fine pickup. Yes, we do have Gallup coming back, but again, coming off a torn ACL is always scary. Most players do not come back 100%, especially because he has only had 7 months to recover from it. Jerry Jones has said positive things, but saying things and actually seeing him on the field are 2 different things. If it is going to be a while for him to come back and Ceedee is not going to look great, I think Noah Brown is an absolutely fine pickup here. He is only 4% rostered, so you're pretty much getting him for essentially free. I don't think you're going to have to spend much fab money. I don't think he will be a high priority waiver wire pickup either, but he's a guy I am very much so targeting. The wide receiver I want to talk about next is Jakobi Meyers. I think Jakobi Meyers is a nice valid bench pickup where you can get him. Right now he's only 39% rostered on Sleeper, and he does have a very, very nice floor, going out getting 13 targets in week 2, and last year Jakobi Meyers had 126 targets for 83 receptions. You figure if Jakobi Meyers can have more than 2 touchdowns next season, which I know Jakobi Meyers has never been a touchdown guy, only 2 career touchdowns, which is, I mean, that's just wild. But if he does exceed his touchdown threshold that he's had in years past and gets 5 or 6, Jakobi Meyers becomes a low-end wide receiver too. In PPR scoring, he was the wide receiver 30 on 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. And an interesting fact, he actually had more targets last season than Ceedee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase. This guy gets it done. Yes, he is not a fanatic touchdown scorer. Yes, he is not a fantastic talent. But he's what Mac Jones has, and a wide receiver one in a bad offense that's in free agency right now, I would absolutely go after. Alright, now let's move on to the running backs here. The first running back I do want to talk about is somebody that it brings me pain to say, but I do have to say his name. He got 14 total touches. His name is Raheem Mostert. Oh man, I was buying into a ton of Chase Edmonds this offseason. Raheem Mostert going out there getting 11 carries for 51 yards in a game with a completely negative game script, and also adds 3 receptions, 3 targets for another 28 yards. I mean, this doesn't prove that he's the running back one, but it essentially means that he is going to be working in at least a 50-50 timeshare, and if that's the case, I'm fine picking him up here in waiver wires. He is only 39% rostered on Sleeper, because if something does happen to Chase Edmonds, this automatically becomes Raheem Mostert's job, and I'm fine having that for one as a trade bargain if Chase Edmonds does go down for the Chase Edmonds owner, but 2 for good running back production if one of your running backs happens to goes down. And if you have Chase Edmonds, I think he's a fine pickup as well as a backup. No matter what, I think he's a fine guy to have, and he's proven that he can be fantasy viable when he did finish as the running back 20 in 2019, so I think he is at least a fine pickup here. Yes, he is pretty old, not a great name, but a guy that's still on my radar and a guy I would be looking to scoop here. The other 2 running backs I want to talk about, I'll group them together because they're on the same team. It's Darrel Williams, it's Eno Benjamin. Now, my recommendation is I would prefer Darrel Williams over Eno Benjamin. Their snap counts were relatively similar. Darrel Williams getting 46% of the snaps, Eno getting 43. They both had the same amount of carries here with 8. And both had similar targets as well. Darrel Williams getting 3 targets for 2 receptions for only 3 yards. Eno getting 3 receptions on 4 targets for 20 yards. So very, very similar in the run game, in the pass game. But Darrel Williams is the one that got the touchdown, so I do think he will probably end up being the goal line back here if James Conner is forced to miss time, which he has done in the past. My only concern is that this may be more of a split backfield. I think they probably were trying to ease Darrel Williams in to the offense because it is his first season, and they probably will give him more touches next game. But it is also possible it's Eno, so that's why I at least wanted to bring up Eno Benjamin, because it was a split backfield here. But either way, I think both of these guys are fine pickups to stash at the end of your bench. If James Conner does miss time, they should be vaulted into a pretty decent workload. And if that's the case, I am fine taking a shot on either of these guys. I wouldn't spend a lot of fab money, and I wouldn't put a high waiver wire claim in. Like, I would prefer all the other guys I spoke about over these 2, but I still think they are fine waiver wire additions, and that's why I'm speaking about them today. I did just want to briefly speak about one tight end, a tight end that caused me a lot of pain and agony week 1. Irv Smith dropping 0 points in week 1. A guy I owned in a ton of leagues. It was getting me a little scared. Then comes out, gets 8 targets for 5 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. And, well, yes, the stats don't look great aside from the touchdown. 8 targets is what we're chasing. Volume is what we're chasing. Plus, during the game, he had a 40-yard bomb that, he just dropped. It looked awful. I felt so bad. Kirk literally put it in the breadbasket, and Irv Smith just dropped it. Well, yes, that is kind of sad to see. Irv Smith was dealing with a thumb injury coming into the season, so I think that may have had something to do with it. Irv Smith is not generally a guy who drops many passes, so I would go out and personally target Irv Smith if he is on your waivers. He is only 34% rostered, so there is a pretty good chance he will be. And it is nice to see him get more targets than Adam Thielen and more targets than KJ Osborne in this offense. 2 guys we did kind of see as threats to Irv Smith's workload. So I would go out and target Irv Smith here. I wouldn't, again, spend a high waiver priority on him, but I would at least go out there and throw your hat in the ring, see if you can go out and get him. The other tight end I want to talk about just quickly is Jawan Johnson. This is a guy in very deep leagues I would go out and target. Right now he is only rostered in 2% of leagues, but this is a player who played on 74 and 78% of the snaps for the Saints. And This week he gets 7 targets. Last week he gets 5 targets. That's 12 targets, which is absolutely fine at the tight end position. Yes, it's not great. Yes, he's not somebody I'm really ecstatic to have on my rosters, but he is at least someone to keep your eye on. I would only really be taking him in like 16-team leagues, very, very deep leagues, but I think he is at least worth a mention if he is getting this high usage of snaps and if he starts taking over a little bit more of the Jarvis Landry role. I mean, if he can have 6-7 targets a game, that's production at the tight end position. If you don't have one of those elite guys, the rest of the tight ends stink. There's really nobody you're happy with on a week-to-week basis. So I'm fine picking up Jawan Johnson as a dart throw, as a sleeper. Probably won't be anything, but he is at least worth a mention. And lastly, just to bring up one defense, just to help you guys out on the defense front. This defense is only rostered in 3% of leagues. It is the Bears. For the next 2 weeks, they play the Houston Texans and the New York Football Giants. So if you are looking for a defense to stream for the next 2 weeks, I would absolutely pick them up. They have 2 great matchups. I don't think the Giants are very good, and I don't think the Texans are very good. But anyways, guys, that is it from me. If you guys could, please go down and give this video a like, give this video a comment. Again, I am answering every single comment, so if you guys have any fantasy football related questions, I will be more than happy. I'd be ecstatic to answer any of your football related questions here. And subscribe to the channel. You can always change your mind later. Again, that is going to be it from me. I really hope you guys did enjoy this waiver wire video. Let me know who your top waiver wire pickups for this week are. Other than that, have a good day, good night, and a good life.